You're listening to China Manufacturing Decoded from the Sophie's Group. Hello, welcome back to China Manufacturing Decoded, episode 263. Adrian here, and Renaud's joining me, this time from India. Hi, Renaud.
Yeah, how are you?
Well, not as globe-trotting as yourself. So you're in India, and that's always an interesting trip, right?
Yeah, love it. Well, we have a growing team here, so it's good to come because there's not so much, let's say, travel of people between the teams in China and the teams in India going to see each other. So yeah, good, but I love it. Food is great, and yeah, South India is love it.
Nice. Well, I'll be looking forward to some interesting insights from you, maybe some photos and videos of what you see and get up to in the manufacturing world over there in due course then, and I'm sure the listeners will be too. Now, before we start with the topic today, and we are talking about quality inspections, by the way, and we'll get into that. Important notification, this podcast marks the 4th full year of doing this podcast. That's crazy.
Yes. So what happened to us in 2021 then?
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I blocked it out, right?
Well, yeah, I guess that's because people could not travel anymore, and then we just had more time on our hands and wanted people still to hear from us.
Yeah. But after COVID, we've kept this thing going. We don't monetize it, and we do put a lot of time and effort into it. But it's great. We get a lot of comments from listeners saying, "Oh yeah, I heard this topic," and some go on to become our customers or are already our customers. And it's always nice to get a bit of recognition for doing it, because ultimately we're trying to help and to make people aware of maybe things they didn't know, by tapping into your experience or the experience of our team. And I don't know how many manufacturing podcasts out there have been going for 4+ years that are focused on China and Asia. Not many.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely not many. No. So this is episode number 263.
Correct, yeah. So if you've listened to all 263, thank you. We salute you. But if you're new to the podcast, welcome anyway. So I mentioned that we're talking about quality inspections for products today, and you're going to just take us through when and how to check your products. Now, this is based on a flowchart that we've created, and I know a flowchart is a terrible format for a podcast because it's visual, right? I will leave links to the flowchart in the show notes so you can go have a look once you're done listening. But anyway, if we go through the actual process, right, the actual flow of it audibly, there's not going to be an issue and it's going to be easy to follow. So yeah, let's talk about which, quality inspections might be suitable and when and how to select them.
Right. So here, the big idea is what type of inspection do you need to... So first inspection, we're talking about quality control inspection, right? To confirm, to verify and confirm that things are going well at the production facility. All right. So that flowchart that you reference is simply, well, based on our experience, what is your situation? And based on your situation, what kind of product inspection do you need? Okay. Now, whether it's yourself going there at the right times, it's you, whatever, setting up your team, it's you working with an outside inspection agency, whatever, right? But this is based on our, how many now? 19 years of experience doing that for our clients. So the few questions that we like to ask, we'll go through it. And if you do it right, you will do, how to say, if the risk is high, then you will tend to do product inspections earlier, like at the time when you want to catch the risk before it's, too late and production is very well advanced and so on. And if really your risk is not that high, is pretty low, then okay, like should you do it on a random sample, or should you do it on, maybe 100% of the samples, etc.? Okay, we try to guide you to make the right trade-off. Let's say it this way.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe we should just go into it. There's a few big questions.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So let's start from the beginning, shall we?
right, all right. So first is, we're assuming it's not your own factory, right? Maybe you have your own factory, but then you buy some components, materials, whatever, modules, sub-assemblies, something from another factory. Okay. We're talking about like that upstream supplier, right? That is going to send something to you or to your customers directly, maybe. But it is your supplier. You want to check the quality of the products that they make for you. Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to send someone there. Okay. Again, what kind of inspection do you need? The first big important question is, what is the situation here? Is it a factory that has been making that exact same product, millions of units? Do they know how to make that kind of product? But maybe this one is a bit specific and it's the first time they make this one, or they don't have experience making this kind of product, right? And obviously the level of risk goes higher and higher here, right? So if you buy, I don't know, plug adapters, and it's always the same, whatever, they have a dozen SKUs.
Yep.
And you're going to buy that from that factory, and they've made millions of it. Okay. Well, yeah, you still want to do inspections, at least at the beginning when you start to buy from them, but you're not going to be all over what they're doing. You can, I guess you can safely assume that they know what they're doing, at least from their experience. And, they've learned a few lessons over the years, and they know how to ensure that they deliver a quality product. Okay.
I hope
Now,
so. Yeah.
before you really jump into these assumptions, you really should question, can you really should you assume that this is the case? Is it maybe that you're working with a company that pretends they've been doing that for 20 years, but actually, I don't know, it's trading company, and they found a new factory that can make it a little bit cheaper, and these guys have no experience, have you looked into it, right?
Mm.
'Cause this is a pretty big assumption, right? If you don't have really good visibility over what happens here, you might be assuming that they know what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
while they don't know what they're doing. Okay. And a kind of very common example that everybody gets is, look, Foxconn makes some really good food, however, for some other customers, Foxconn makes some really crappy electronic products
Yeah.
and phone. The key difference is the customer doesn't do the same thing. Apple has 10,000 people in China.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over the design of the product, the industrialization, the transfer to manufacturing, all over the manufacturing, etc., and all the way through the tier one suppliers, the tier two suppliers, the suppliers of components, right? Whereas some other customers might come to them and not do all that work and just rely on them because, hey, they have the experience. Well, no, that's really a big mistake. All right.
Mm.
So you got to really understand, is it exactly the same product that they've been making the same way over and over again, right? And is it on a market that is relatively similar to yours? Meaning that if you work with a company that's been making a lot of products for, I don't know, the Chinese domestic market, for things that are sold on Taobao and other channels at a relatively low price point, and maybe quality is not great, and suddenly you want to bring it into a higher end distribution channel in another country. Well, that experience might not, how to say, translate into very good results for you.
Mm.
Okay, so you got to watch out for your assumptions. But again, if the factory's been making this product for a long time. They really have the experience and they know what they're doing and so on and so forth. Okay, then you can say, hey, let's just go with a final inspection. Just let them do the production without bothering them.
Mm.
Just them on that, right? And then, okay, then the question is, should it be a random inspection? So, if it's, I don't know, 1,000 pieces, then 100 pieces randomly, right? You can make the calculation. It's not a very high percentage, right? The statistics about that. Okay, but then the question is, what if there's 1% effective, 2% effective, 3% effectives in the final, in the batch that you receive? Is that going to be an issue, right? Because if you do random inspections, acceptance based on acceptance sampling, okay,
Hmm.
I pick 200 pieces out of the 8,000 pieces, check them one by one. I found a few defects. It's under the limit. Okay, fine. In, maybe you found just 0.8%, let's say, and okay, it looks good. Or maybe actually you found 3-4% actually still passed most of the time, just based on the way the statistics work, right?
Mm.
So what happens if the batch, is shipped out and then you find that maybe 3% of the products are defective? Is that a big problem? Is that going to hurt your business, right? And really the answer is you get to know your business and you get to know your distribution channel. And based on that, you can decide, is this something that might really hurt my business a lot? Yes or
Mm.
no, right? If if that's like, oh, okay, 2-3% from time to time, not great, but not gonna kill us, not gonna be a big issue. Okay, then in that case, yeah, go with a final random
Mm.
inspection. Again, it's, I don't know, 3,000 pieces, then pick 125 pieces, right? It's not a straight proportion, always the same percentage. Percentage
Mm.
actually, goes down as you go into higher quantities. Okay. And the good thing with that is it's cost effective. You don't have to send, an army of people over there or get all the products and check them one by one or something. And pretty much all the manufacturers that are used to exporting products out of places like China or Vietnam, they are used to the way acceptance sampling works. They're used to, okay, how many defective units? Okay, is this pass or failed? Okay, they compare it to this number. It's under the limit. Okay, they're used to that, right? They're used to it. So it's relatively straightforward to set up. Okay, and there's a lot of companies that can help you. There's a lot of inspectors that are used to doing that. Okay,
Mm.
so and that's the way it's done on a lot of products. A lot of buyers just do some final random inspection. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, if you say, oh, hold your horses. I buy, I don't know, expensive products like it's laptops and I'm not so sure about this factory still, or I buy, jewelry or certain things that where you really cannot accept 2, 3, 4% of defectives from time to time. Well, in that case, well, what can you do? You don't really want to intervene in sort of during the production of the products because, well, they know what they're doing. I want them to be responsible, blah, blah. These defectives, if there are defectives, what companies do is that from the start with the manufacturer with the supplier. Your supplier going to tell them, hey, maybe my business is, I don't know, let's say you're in somewhere in Europe, let's say, and the supplier, let's say they're in China. Then you tell them, hey, if you ship it out to me and I receive a lot of issues, it's a big problem. I cannot send it back to you for repair. I cannot do, like I'm gonna have to pay myself for sorting the bad products out and all these things. That's really a problem. A solution is that You just deliver to this other company over there in your area in China, and they will check 100%. And, you know, obviously you have to set a clear standard. So there's no misalignment as much as possible. Okay. And the facility where this 100% inspection job would be done needs to communicate with the supplier and so on. Like the suppliers got to feel relatively comfortable with their skills and their abilities. Then what what you do that this also has an impact on payment because a lot of suppliers don't want to release the products, how to say, before they are paid. So they don't want to send the products out because then after that, if they are still owed a payment, when are they going to get that payment, right?
Mm.
So there's a bit of a commercial negotiation here. But the good thing is that then the products are checked carefully offsite. So number one, there's no, let's say, interference from the supplier. They cannot be there when the inspection is going on. So that's one thing that's very positive. They cannot try to influence. They cannot try to pressure people or whatever. And then if, let's say, whatever, 2% of defectives are found, okay, shipment is urgent. Just arrange shipment for the 98% that are good. Then the 2% just send them back to the supplier. They get to rework or reproduce or something, or just give a credit note for that.
Mm.
And then if there's a misalignment on the standard and they still say, no, this is good, this is good, this is good, then it's good to have a discussion again, right? With that outside party that does the 100% inspection, with the customer, with the supplier, right? So it's something that Japanese companies tend to do a lot, right? Companies in other countries, it really depends. Again, it's only if 2 or 3% of defectives, might really hurt your business, right? And in that case, you want to make things, how to say, to reduce the risk.
Yeah, yeah,
By the
makes
way,
sense.
a positive here is that maybe that facility that does the 100% inspection maybe does something else. Maybe they add some labeling with certain things that you don't want the factory to see. What is the branding, what is the pricing, etc. Maybe
Mm.
they kit it together, they bundle it with some other product from another factory, right? So there's actually a lot of cases where it kind of makes sense.
Mm. Good point.
Okay, so that was, is it the first time the factory makes this product? No. Now let's say, yeah, the factory is the first time they make this product.
Mm.
Okay, so the typical ways to address that be different in different industries. Like, for example, in textile, let's say you're going to buy, some garments, and you designed new a new style with these accessories and this fabric and blah blah blah, and it's going to be made for the first time in a garment factory. Well, see, it's a new product, first time. So usually, what you would do is once, let's say, when production is just starting, let's say the cotton shoe is just starting, or a little bit before that, what they call a pre-production meeting. So in a pre-production meeting, you you have someone go to the factory, look at the details of what the factory has, like the components and everything that they have ordered for production. Is it exactly the same as the approved samples? And see with the factory, one by one, like what are the risk factors here? What are the cut and sew operations that are a bit critical? What, where they see some risk? Well, how they're going to do this, how they're going to do that. So it's kind of a risk analysis and a discussion, right? And if they are starting to do the cut and sew, also have a look at what they're doing, right? So this is a way to sort of ensure that the key people at the factory, meaning in the production team, in the quality team, and so on, they really know what's important on this product, and they keep in mind what the risks are, and they're going to address these risks, right? The person who goes there to do the preparation meeting should be very, very clear about what the quality standard is and what is really, really important on that product. Okay.
Mm.
Then during the cut and sew process at one point, when there's some finished products coming out of the line and so on, then send someone for an inspection at that point during production. Sometimes they call it an inline inspection, meaning that there's more focus on the manufacturing process itself. Sometimes just inspection during production on finished products. Okay. So give them, how to say, an early taste of what the inspection will be, the final inspection. Like, hey, if
Mm.
it's like this in the final inspection, you're not going to pass. Oh, okay. Wow. Right. So
Mm.
visual check, measurement check, etc., etc. And then it goes into a final random inspection, because that's when you can really count the products, pick them at random, check the packaging, check the labeling, and really pick products at random. That means you can actually have an idea about the average level of quality there, right? And you can have an idea about the proportion of defective products. So that's in the textile industry. When you go into, let's say, general hard goods, including electrical products, okay, it's it's a little bit different, and the names are a little bit different, right? So what's really really powerful is what they call a first article inspection. So
Mm.
it's the first time they're gonna make this product. Well, okay, when they make the first ones, the first, one, two, three, four, five, go there, have someone on site, check the products right away and check them carefully, check them more in depth, right? So that means, I don't know, if you buy some mechanical parts and you have some CAD drawings, remember we talked about that, I don't know, one or two episodes ago, you will look at the 2D drawings for the dimensions. You will check for the critical to quality dimensions, but also, if time allows, you also check some of the other dimensions as well. It's really the time where you want to put the finger on any issues as early as possible. Because if you find an issue, you give feedback right away to the factory and they go back and they adjust it, right? Very common also when printing something. So if you work with a printing factory and you really want it to be exactly the right color, the right, obviously the right material and finish, etc., etc. Okay, then you have someone there who really is very well aligned with the customer's idea, what the right colors are, for example, and
Mm.
the right effects and so on. And you give the feedback right away, right there when they've done the setup. They've done the setup for the printing machinery, right? And if something needs to be adjusted, well, let them adjust it right there and run it again on a very small scale. And if it's okay, just sign on it and they keep going, right? Whereas if there are issues, right there, give them the feedback and they try to set things up a bit differently. Okay. Then after that, it's still good to do an inspection during production. Maybe when, I don't know, 5%, 10%, 20% of the products are fully finished. And it's usually kind of a mock-up of a final inspection. You pick some products at random, you check them for appearance, function, dimensions, etc. Right? Ideally, if it's, for example, if it's an assembly job, ideally they also pack right away rather than keep a lot of things assembled but not packed and then they pack at the last minute. So in that case, in an inspection during production, you can also check the packing. Okay, and then it still goes, and then, before shipment, if it's the first time, it's still good to have a final random inspection. Now, all of this is, how to say, is based on a risk analysis, right? So why do I ask, is it the first time this factory makes this product? Because if the answer is yes, the risk profile is much higher, right? So if you do, for example, a first article inspection, okay, well, really great job. An inspection during production, maybe 20%. is finished, 20% of the batch is finished, and quality is outstanding. Well, then maybe if you feel really good about that and you want to save a little bit of money, you don't do a final random inspection, right? You've done your job actually looking at production in a way that enables you to catch the issues as close as possible to the source. That if there is an issue, you can push them to react, make some changes in their process, basically. Or if it's, I don't know, if it's an issue with some components and they cannot do anything with it, they have to work with a supplier. Okay, push them to stop right away. Yeah, there's no sense in getting production to run if, like a key component is defective and it will make the full product defective, right?
No.
So,
but at least this gives you that warning that you can actually stop before things are too late. It's better to stop now than at the end. That's the best option.
Assuming they will accept to stop if you tell them to stop, right? So anyway, that's you need to have a certain weight over your supplier. They need to listen to you, obviously, right? So, yeah, I mean, we've been through the logic of the flowchart, right? Not that complicated.
No, but it's good, and it's good to get a picture of, where do we go? And I think thinking about, is it the first time the factory's made the product or the supplier's made the product? That's probably the key point here, isn't it, really?
Yeah, right. If they are a factory specialist in, I don't know, toasters, and you pick an existing model in their showroom and say, I want this one, just make it in my color with my logo. Well, and if you have, again, reasonably high assurance that they've been making this for a while, maybe they're running production of it right now, you can have a look at it. It's pretty good. Okay. As long as they don't subcontract production, and again, that's an assumption here, right? As long as they don't subcontract production, maybe because they're too busy, maybe, I don't know, they negotiated the price a bit too hard or something. And also as long as they did not make a change in, maybe they substituted a cheaper material, maybe they changed the manufacturing process a bit to make it easier, as long as they don't play these kind of games. Yeah, again, a proper risk analysis would guide you to just say, okay, that's fine. We'll just let them produce and then we'll have a look at it after, just before they ship, right?
Okay. So we've mentioned a number of the different types of inspections. Sofeast, as you may well be aware, it do provide these different inspections around Asia and beyond. So I'll link to those in the show notes and you can dive in and learn a bit more about them. But this does give you a good indication of when to use the different kinds of inspections and the benefits of doing so, or the reasons not to do so as well. Because, you can go too far with inspections, as we've talked about in the past and written about. Sometimes it's a bit overkill, isn't it? And then you're spending money you don't need to. So it's good to have a good grasp of what you need and when. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah, and also in the long run, this is when you're starting, you need to set up the right quality assurance type of approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the long run, again, you need to do your own risk analysis. If a supplier has really, really outstanding performance, always good, always very good, and the feedback you get from your market also is that their products are very good, okay, as long as you keep an eye on them and there's no major changes in their organization and so on, well, maybe you go from doing systematically final random inspection every batch to doing skip lot, but then you don't tell them until the last minute, The idea is that you keep pressure on them and they don't know if it will come or not, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so if you've got any questions and you're listening and you're thinking about quality inspections and which might be suitable, do get in touch. That's what this has been all about. But yeah, a good basis there to make good decisions now, Renaud. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast brought to you by the Sofeast Group.
we're on a mission to provide you with everything you need to manufacture effectively in Asia, including inspections, auditing, new product development support, contract manufacturing, 3PL warehousing and fulfillment, and much, much more across Asia's key manufacturing areas. Visit us at sofeast.com, that's SOFEAST.com, to learn more and get help. If you've enjoyed the podcast today, please do rate, review and share, because it will really help others discover us too.